Hey everybody, welcome back to Pizza with Roasted Sourdough. I'm Mike. I'm excited today to teach you how to use this and make your very first pizza in the Ooni Volt. It's not going to be a Neapolitan style. It's not going to be a New York style. It's actually going to be a pan pizza, a grandma style pan pizza. I'm going to explain why. We're going to make the recipe and we're going to make the pizza, and you're going to be so impressed by what this oven can do. And we're going to make sure that you have a flawless first pizza in your Ooni Volt 12. Let's get going. All right, the first thing we need to do to make our grandma style pizza is make our grandma style pizza dough. Now, grandma style is a great first pizza in your Ooni Volt because you don't need any special equipment. The dough is super easy to make, it's super easy to work with, and then you don't need to worry about it getting stuck to a peel because it's in a pan. It's super easy to launch and retrieve your pizza. Grandma style is great because you can put literally anything on it. Now, the origins of grandma style, well, like anything in pizza, it's covered in lore. But essentially what people think is that in New York, some grandmothers were replicating Sicilian style pizza, which is a little bit thicker pan pizza, but they were making it with new flour and new ovens, and they made the grandma style pizza. Now, today I'm going to be making one that's got a little bit of a twist, and I'll show you that when we actually make our pizza. But the essentials of the grandma style pizza are that it's a pan pizza that's got a decently thin crust, but a little bit thicker than your normal pizza. So let's go ahead and get started with the dough. This recipe is going to make two 9x13 grandma style pizzas. Refer to Pizza with Roasted Sourdough for lots of different sizes. I'm going to be doing the sourdough recipe today, but there's also a yeasted recipe in Pizza with Roasted Sourdough that you can follow along if you want to make this a yeasted grandma style pizza. So let's get going with the sourdough grandma style pizza. All right, so we're going to start with our bowl, and to that we're going to add 305 grams of warm water. You want that water to be warm, somewhere around 93 Fahrenheit or 34 Celsius. And that's going to help bring our dough temperature up. Our target dough temperature this is somewhere around 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius. All right, to that we're going to add 13 grams of salt and 13 grams of olive oil. All right, let's bring in our sourdough, 78 grams of sourdough. This is sourdough that was fed about 6 to 8 hours ago, has peaked, and it's ready to rock. We're going to mix that just to combine and let the sourdough break up a little bit. You don't need that sourdough to be fully dissolved, just till your water turns milky in color. All right, now in with the bread flour, 431 grams. You're like, Mike, why are you so specific? 431 grams? Everything works backwards from the size dough ball that I want to make, and then I use baker's math to give me numbers. So they're usually not round numbers, but they are precise. All right, so now I'm just going to mix to combine. All right, so now we're just going to mix all that until we have no more dry clumps of flour. If you don't understand what 122 means or what baker's math is, head to roastedsourdough.com, check out the free sourdough resources tab, and go ahead and get those directly in your inbox. That's going to teach you what 122 means. It's going to teach you what baker's math is and how to use it to write your own recipes. It's a great resource, and they are completely 100% for free. All right, and we're going to stop when our dough looks something like this. Now, this is far from a smooth dough ball, but don't worry about that. We're going to let this rest somewhere warm for an hour, and nature's going to do its thing, and this is going to come together, and it's going to look like a smooth dough ball. So I'll see you back here in 1 hour, and we're going to do our first fold on this, the stretch and fold. Be right back. All right, so it's been an hour. You've been keeping your dough warm, it's covered. Now we're going to do our first fold, and you're going to see how much this dough transforms in just a single fold. Now, our first fold is called a stretch and fold. Stretch and fold is basically the first fold I call for in all my recipes, because it helps to establish a smooth side and a seam side. I'll show you what that means in just 1 second. One thing you're going to want is a little bit of water on the side, not a ton. You don't need a ton of water on your hands, just a little bit. Get your hands a little bit wet like that, just so they glisten. The dough's not going to stick to you, okay? So here we go. We're going to reach in and we're going to pinch a bit of the dough. We're going to lift up, and then we're going to fold it over the top of the dough and see how it goes all the way across to the other side of the dough. We're going to turn it a little bit and repeat that same procedure, all right? Lifting a little bit, folding over the top. And that lift, that's going to stretch the dough. Okay, that's our stretch, and then our fold. Turn, pinch, lift up, stretch, and fold over the top. And we're going to continue doing this, working around the dough. It's okay if the dough's breaking, it's not a big deal. We're going to continue doing the stretch and fold until the dough wants to lift up out of the bowl. It's going to tell us that it's done at that point. Okay, so the dough's telling me now it's ready to get flipped over. You can see because it just about wants to go up out of the bowl when I tug on it. So I'm just going to lift it up all the way out of the bowl, and I'm going to flip it so that seam side's now on the bottom. All right, now I'm going to do a thing called a rhubarb technique. And rhubarb technique essentially is mimicking a diving arm mixer. So you're going to use your hand to do this kind of motion into the bowl, using the back of the bowl as kind of a backstop for the dough, and then you're going to slowly rotate the bowl as you do that. So just continue to kind of work around the dough, and you're going to see that this dough is going to get a lot smoother, and it's going to be a nice little smooth dough ball by the time we're done with this. And I'm going to stop there. Okay, I don't want to stress the dough too much. I'm not determined to make it a super smooth dough ball at this point. This is just my first fold. Moving forward, we're just going to be doing those coil folds, and that's going to continue to build strength and structure in our dough, and then we're going to put it in the fridge for a good overnight rest. Tomorrow we'll make our pizza. I'm going to let this sit somewhere warm for an hour, and we'll be back to show you the coil fold. All right, so it's been another hour, and we're going to do a coil fold. So to do a coil fold, it's really easy. Lightly wet hands. You're going to reach in the sides of the bowl, lift straight up and pull back towards you. The dough is going to fold back down on itself, and then you're going to release. Turn the bowl, and you're going to do the same thing. What you're trying to do is get that to tuck under that bottom edge, that seam, to tuck under the dough. And you're just going to kind of keep on doing that back and forth until you've got that dough tucked under. At first, it's kind of hard to get it started, but there you go. It's going to look like that. Then you're going to turn 90 degrees, and you're going to do the same procedure. So lift in from the bottom, pulling straight up, tucking backwards, lifting in from the sides, pulling up, pulling back, and tucking under. And you're just going to keep repeating this until the dough says it doesn't want to anymore. So you're going to keep on going around until it does something like that, and it starts tightening up, and it says, you know what, if you keep doing this, it's just going to rip. So we're going to be done right there. Nice, taut, little smooth dough ball. And we're going to cover it up and put it somewhere for an hour to stay nice and warm. All right, so that's the first coil fold. Now what are we going to do? We're going to wait an hour, and we're going to coil fold it again. Now I'm not going to show you every coil fold. This is what it's going to look like. You had your mix, and then you waited an hour, and you did your stretch and fold. Then you waited an hour, and we just did this coil fold. You're going to wait another hour, do another coil fold. One more hour, one more coil fold. One more hour, one more coil fold. That's 5 hours since you mixed. That's going to be your last coil fold. After your last coil fold, it's going to go into the fridge for an overnight rest. You can let it sit in there for a couple days. Out of the fridge, I'm going to show you then how to cut, ball, and pan your pizza right after this. Okay, so you did your stretch and fold, you got your coil folds. I'm not going to show you each one. Just refer back to this procedure for all of those coil folds, 4 in total. And after that 5th hour, after that last coil fold, go ahead and pop it in the fridge, come back here, cut, ball, pan, and then we'll make some pizza in our Ooni Volt 12. All right, let's do it. I'll see you back here for after the fridge time. Bye. All right, so it's the next day, and your dough has been resting in its container overnight in the fridge. I'm going to show you now how to pan up this dough so that we can make their pizza in about 3 to 5 hours. And I'll explain why that timeline is important here in a second. Now, as I explained before, we're making 9x13 grandma style pizzas. I find this size is really great. It's a really easily accessible pan. Like I said earlier, for this pizza, you don't need really any special equipment outside of your Ooni. Use whatever pan you've got. For the 9x13, we're looking for 420 gram-ish dough balls, like I had mentioned earlier. So let's go ahead and get this pan ready. Ideally, you'd have 2 of these. And what you're gonna do is start with a little trick that Tony Gimignani taught me, which is to use both butter and oil when you're doing pan pizzas. You can also use Crisco as a good butter alternative. Now, what this does for pan pizzas is it really helps with the release so you don't get any sticking. Lloyd pans in general, which is this pan, usually doesn't have any sticking issues, but I found that a little bit of butter and olive oil really helps. This pizza is going to sit in this pan for the next 3 to 5 hours, and it's going to come up to room temperature. And while that's happening, specifically with sourdough, it's going to be creating more of those acids. And the acid can fight through olive oil, and it can lead to sticking in your pan. But what I found, because olive oil is an unsaturated fat, butter is a saturated fat, it has a harder time cutting through that saturated fat. So I like to do both. A little bit of butter, just rub it down the pan, and then you're gonna throw your olive oil in there and work that around as well. All right, so now my pan's ready to go. Let's go ahead and get our dough ready to go in the pan. So we're looking for roughly 420 gram dough balls. I know I made 2 9x13s here, so it should be about half. So we're going ahead and put our bowl and dough on the scale, take our dough out, put our bowl back on, and we're gonna get 838 on there. So we knew that was right. So we're looking for 420-ish grams for our dough ball. All right, so now we've got two 420-gram dough balls, and we're gonna ball them up. Now you don't wanna put too much tension in this dough. The more tension you put in it, the longer it's gonna take to relax. So we're not gonna ball it up super tight. We're just gonna go really loose on these dough balls, okay? So really loosely, just form these into two dough balls. The more tension we put on it, the longer it's gonna take to relax. So not too much tension, just a little bit. Now that looks pretty good to me. Pop that big bubble. Okay, so now we've got our two dough balls here. So what do we do with these dough balls? Well, now I put them in the pan, and it's got to relax in the pan. And that's that timeline, that 3 to 5 hours, however long it takes to completely relax and come up to temperature so we can press the dough out in the pan. The easiest way to do that, take your oil pan, put your dough ball in it. I like to put it in smooth side down. Find that also helps to reduce sticking. And then we're just gonna lightly press out the dough just to kind of get it below the rim of your pan. That way you can cover this with a warm, wet towel, and that's going to help with the moisture stay in. And it's going to also help this dough come to temperature a little bit quicker and relax. All right, so we're going to cover this with a warm towel. We're going to wait our 3 to 5 hours. We're going to check on it, make sure it's spreading out in the pan. And after that time, we're going to come back here and I'm going to show you how to press out the dough, top it, and bake it in our Ooni Volt. All right, so let me go cover this and I'll see you back here in 3 to 5 hours. All right, so it has been a couple hours since we panned up this dough, and you can tell already how much more it's spread out in the pan. It's looking absolutely perfect. Every couple hours, every hour, you want to just come in and check on it and make sure that it's filling the pan up really well. You can even give it some light stretches just to help push it out into the edges of the pan. And you can also actually press on it. That's what they call pressing the dough out. It's basically just putting your fingers in, kind of like you're dimpling focaccia, and you're just pushing the pizza out to the edges. Now it's going to contract like that. See what I just did? I kind of pulled on it and it contracted a little bit. That's totally fine. This dough is still resting. That tells me that it's not ready to go yet, and it just needs a little bit more time. The sign that it's ready to go is when it's not fighting you like that. So that's why you kind of want to do this in stages, so you can stretch it out as far as it wants to go. It'll fight you and kind of suck back in and get stuck at a certain size. And then you know that it just needs to rest a little bit longer, at least 15 minutes, but let it go for another half hour or an hour, especially if it feels cool to the touch, and then come back and press it out again. And once it fills that pan completely, 420-gram dough ball and a 9x13 will fill it really nicely. Once it's full, then we'll go ahead and top it and bake it. I'm just gonna cover it up here, and I'm gonna let it sit a little bit longer until it's ready to go. All right, so it has been a few hours, and I'm just gonna check on our dough here, and it's looking really nice. So we've got dough that's relaxed and it's filling this pan really nicely. I think one more pressing and it's gonna fill it completely, and we're gonna be ready to make our pizza. So I'm going to preheat the Ooni Volt. Now, in the Essentials Guide, you're gonna find this table. It's a pizza styles table, and it's gonna tell you whatever style of pizza that you're making, what the recommended temperature and balance setting is. Now, Adam worked a ton to get these balance settings perfect, made a ton of pizza. And what we found out during that testing was that pan pizzas generally need a little bit more power to the base, which makes total sense. So for a grandma style pizza, we are looking at a set temperature of 325 C or 600 Fahrenheit and a bake time of 7 to 9 minutes with a balance setting of B4T6. So let's see what that means on the Ooni. All right, so let's go over to the Ooni and check it out. First thing we gotta do is turn it on. So remember, the power switch is on the side. This little button's gonna light up. Press that, and it's gonna turn on. And we said it was 600 Fahrenheit, so I'm just gonna rotate our temperature dial to 600. And you're gonna see the default setting for that was B2T8, so 20% to the bottom and 80% to the top. But we see here in our Essentials Guide that it wants us to turn it down to B4. Now, we can't do that until the oven is preheated. So all we're gonna do now is wait for our oven to preheat. And while we do that, we're gonna give this pizza one final press just to make sure that it fully fills the pan before we top it, all right? So an easy way to kind of stretch this out is just grab the edges and really try to fill in that pan with pizza dough. And it looks like I've got a little hole here. I'm not too worried about that. Nice thing about pan pizza, you don't really have to stress about holes like you do in normal pizza making. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and press this to really fill in our whole pan and get our base nice and even. This is looking really, really good. Now remember, we're gonna do this one last time when our oven's preheated. I just wanted to give it a final one before that to make sure that it's fully ready for that last pressing. And this looks really, really good. All right, so our oven is sitting at 500 degrees, which that was really fast. So we're gonna go ahead and get this pizza going so that we can have it ready for when the oven's ready. All right, so let's get going. First thing we want to do is finish out pressing this pizza all the way to the edge. And something you can do to make this extra fancy is put sesame seeds on the bottom and the crust of the pizza. I find it adds a little something extra. Some people will swear up and down that it must have sesame seeds to be a grandma style pizza. I disagree with that, but I do think that it does add a little something, something. So I'm just gonna roll that dough back onto my hand on one half, sprinkle some sesame seeds down, and place that dough back down. Helps if your hand is a little bit wet. That'll help it from sticking to you. I'm just gonna do it the same on the other side. So roll that dough back, and where I missed it, I'm gonna put some sesame seeds on the pan. Now, I find the sesame seeds add a really nice little flavor to the dough, and it's just kind of fun. It adds a little crunch too. A little bit of just sesame flavor, which is really nice. All right, now we're gonna press out the dough, and I'm gonna make a little crust around the edge of my pizza. There we go, completely filling our pan. We've got the edge of the crust all the way pushed up into the edges. And now we've got a well-defined crust all the way around. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just add a little bit more sesame seeds to my crust, just to give it a little bit more texture. All right. So let's go ahead and top this now. This is a super, super simple red sauce. There we go, we're ready to rock, and I'm almost ready too. So super simple red sauce. Check out my book, Pizza with Roasted Sourdough. The recipe for this is in there. Really, really simple. Just some confit garlic and canned tomatoes and a little bit of basil, some oregano. Really, really tasty. All right, cool. So gonna lay that down on my pizza just like that. All right, now we need some cheese. So I'm gonna be doing 2 cheeses today. I'm gonna be doing a sliced grande mozzarella. Now, I do find that not only do these slices completely just perfectly fill a 9x13 pan, I find that this style of cheese is really nice. The whole milk mozzarella by Grande has a really nice texture to it, and it's not gonna burn as fast as some of those shredded mozzarellas. Plus, you don't have to worry about the caking agents, or anti-caking agents, I should say, in shredded cheese. We're just gonna be using the sliced mozzarella that you can find at a deli counter. Make sure you're getting a whole milk mozzarella. That's gonna brown up really nicely as our crust browns up. The other thing I'm gonna put on here, a little bit less traditional maybe, but I like the flavor. I'm just gonna layer in a little bit of a provolone now, and I'm just gonna put a bit in just to kind of layer in that flavor, just like that, and now I'm done. Okay, cool. So launching this pizza is super easy, but before we do, we need to get our oven set up. So remember, Ooni recommends B4, and that's all you have to do to get your oven to B4. Just 2 clicks down on the knob to get it down to B4. We've got our oven set to 600. We're just gonna launch pizza right in there, into the center of the oven, just like that. Now, I'm gonna set it for 3 minutes. And I wanna do that because I wanna rotate this pizza fairly often. I wanna make sure that it gets a nice even browning on the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is rotate it every 3 minutes. Now, 3 times 4, that's 12 minutes. And I'm pretty sure that the Essentials Guide, let's check, said 7 to 9 minutes, all right? So I'm not gonna do 3 minutes each time I turn it. I just wanna give it the first 3 minutes, and then we'll check on it, and then we'll start doing rotations every 1 to 2 minutes, just to make sure that it's baking really evenly in there. But that's pretty much it. So we got it in there, we've got our timer set, so now I'm just gonna clean up a little bit and wait for that timer to go off, and I'll meet you back here in 2.5 minutes. All right, so that was our first 3 minutes. That's done now. I'm gonna go in and rotate it. Obviously I need some gloves to do that. All right, so here are my Ooni gloves. Let's go in and give this a rotate. Normal oven gloves will probably be fine for this, but if you're doing anything hotter, I recommend getting some good oven gloves. That's a 2-minute timer. I rotated it 180 degrees. We're gonna let it go for another 2 minutes, and then we will come back and check on it again, and I'll do 2 minutes to the front and 2 minutes to the back. So a 90 and then a 180, and we'll keep rocking and rolling on this pizza. All right, so we're almost at the end of our second 2-minute timer. I've got my cooling rack, I've got my spatula, I've got my pizza cutter. See a lot of steam coming off the oven now. That's perfectly fine. It smells absolutely amazing right now. It's pretty incredible. I'm gonna grab a pizza peel, and this is about the time that early, 7 to 9 minutes. This is the 7-minute mark right here. So we might be done. I'm just gonna give it a check when this timer goes off. It's looking so good, and I'm gonna tell you again about the cheese because I wanna show you how well the cheese browned compared to the crust when we get this out on the cooling rack. So let's go ahead and check this out. All right, there's our timer. I'm gonna give it one final spin. Check it out here. It's looking really, really good. All right, 2 more minutes. I think it could use a little bit more time, specifically on the top. I don't think the top is quite brown enough. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my balance knob here, and I'm just gonna direct a little bit more power to the top. After this 2 minutes, if I still feel like it's not quite done. So I'm gonna do 2 more minutes. That's the 7 to 9 minute mark. I'm gonna be on the 9 side of that. I'm gonna see how it looks. If I don't feel like it's done, I'm just gonna direct a little bit more power and get a little bit more browning on the top. So let's see what it looks like. 2 more minutes. There it is. All right, so this is the 9-minute mark. So let's check it out and see how it looks. All right, so I personally think that could use a little bit more color on the top. So what I'm gonna do, just put it back in the oven, and I'm just gonna add a little bit more power to the top by turning my dial over here all the way to the top. I'm gonna assume the bottom's done. I'll check it when it comes out, and if it needs more time, I'll put all the power down to the bottom. This is a cool thing about this oven. You can adjust it depending on what style of pizza you're making, so it fits your needs. So put a little bit more power to the top, and let's see if we can get some more color on that crust, all right? So you want to keep an eye on your pizza to make sure that you're not burning it. You're just getting a little bit more color to the top. It's looking really good. Woo! Here's the thing too, at this point you can leave the door open because you're just checking on it so often. That's also going to trick the temperature sensor to think that it's a little bit cooler inside and it's going to want to heat up. So we're just going to leave the door open and direct some more of that power to the top. All right, so I think that's looking really nice. Now, splitting hairs here, yeah, maybe I got a little bit too much color there, but I was really going for a nice even brown all the way around. Remember the Ooni Volt has a round heating element on top, so you're going to get a little bit more color here, so you can move the pizza kind of around there to balance it out. But honestly, this looks absolutely amazing. Let's check the base out and see how that looks, see if that needs more time in the oven. All right, so let's get a view of that. Base is actually looking pretty good. Now, I think it could use a little bit more time in there. So to get a little bit more color on the bottom, it's really easy. You're just going to rotate the balance knob all the way down to the bottom, and that's going to put the oven into a stone boost. It's going to put all the power down in the oven on the bottom element for 45 seconds. So I'm going to get my pizza back in there, let it benefit from that extra time getting blasted by that bottom heating element, just to darken up the bottom a bit. So it should only take 30 to 45 seconds here to get a little bit more color on the bottom. Like I said, honestly, splitting hairs. If you made that pizza just how it is right now for your very first Ooni pizza, I think you would be completely stoked and super excited to have a really awesome grandma style pan pizza as your first pizza. Now, really great way to do this is go buy some dough. You don't need to make your dough. I know I showed you how to make all the dough, but you don't need to do that. You can go buy some dough and use store-bought dough to make a pan pizza. Just cut it up, ball it up, the size you want, let it rest in the pan, come up to temperature, press it out, and you can make a really awesome pan pizza with store-bought dough. All right, so our boost icon has switched from flashing fast to flashing slow, and it's back to our B2, which is the preset for this temperature. So I know that the boost is done, and before it blasts the top with any more heat, I'm just gonna pull that out and cut it up and enjoy some great grandma style pizza. We're just gonna let it cool for just a second, just so it's able to give a second just to set up. Sometimes when you cut really, really hot pizza, especially pan pizza, you're gonna lose some of the steam from the crust as that's finishing setting up. Also the cheese just way too hot, it's gonna pull off the pizza. So we're just gonna let this rest 5 minutes maybe, as long as we can stand it, because it smells super, super good. Hear that? The sound is fantastic. There's definitely a crust down there that I'm cutting through. All right, let's take a look at the cross section and look how it looks here. It looks really nice. Check that out. It's looking really good. All right, let's taste that. This is such a nice pizza. I think you'd be absolutely stoked. This is your very first pizza that you made in Ooni Volt. You might not make any other style of pizza. Grandma style is so easy. You don't need anything extra. You don't need a peel. Thank you for coming and checking out the video. Thanks for checking out how to make a grandma style pizza in your Ooni Volt 12. Head to the affiliate link below and grab your Ooni Volt 12. I would appreciate that. Like the video. Any questions you got, throw them in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a whole lot more videos coming out on different styles of pizza you can make in the Ooni Volt. So be here for that. Thank you for coming, and I will see you again real soon. Bye.